This lecture will focus on one more important feature of grammar that we really should be trying to include in our Task 1 responses, and this is relative clauses. For a number of reasons, relative clauses are very useful, and they are a vital piece of grammar for expanding range and demonstrating understanding of the task. First of all, we need to ask the question, what exactly are relative clauses? Well, we use relative clauses to clarify who or what we are talking about. This is called a defining relative clause. Or to give more information about something without writing another sentence. This is called a non-defining relative clause. Defining relative clauses do not need a comma before the relative pronoun. They should not have a comma before the relative pronoun. So the country which sells the most oil is Saudi Arabia. So here you can see the relative pronoun is which. Notice that a comma does not come before it. Non-defining relative clauses, on the other hand, do need a comma before the relative pronoun. Saudi Arabia sells over 1 million barrels of oil, which makes it the most active exporter of this fossil fuel. Notice the pause in my voice. That is because there is a comma before the relative pronoun which. That is really important, and that comma must be there. If it is not there, you're going to lose marks for grammar and punctuation. So, with that in mind, let's try a matching exercise here based on the chart that we looked at in the previous lecture. So I want you to look at these sentences below and see if you can match the endings, or in some cases the middles. So you can pause the video here and see if you can work out which numbers 1, 2 and 3 match with which letters A, B and C. And when you've done that, you can press play and then we'll have a look together. Okay, let's have a look. So, number 1, Sweden imported just over 50,000 kilograms of bananas in 2011, which was twice as many as the figures for Norway and Iceland. Here we have a non-defining relative clause. We're choosing to offer a little bit more information to the reader without adding another sentence. Number 2, Norway, which imported half as many bananas as Sweden, imported twice as many other fruits. Now, notice that the non-defining relative clause can be slotted in to the middle of a sentence if appropriate. And finally, number 3, first place for apple imports went to the same country which imported the most oranges and bananas. Here we are defining the country which imported the most oranges and bananas, so we have a defining relative clause and therefore we remove the comma. I'd recommend practicing relative clauses just so that you feel a little bit more confident about which expressions will use a comma and therefore are a non-defining relative clause, and which ones do not use a comma and therefore are defining relative clauses. Now, how would we use relative clauses when writing our Task 1 response? Non-defining relative clauses are especially useful, particularly when you want to offer a little more information about a point, but you don't want to start a new sentence. That bit more information might be offering a superlative or offering a comparative. So we'll have a look at an example here by having a look at this pie chart that we've seen before. Coal makes up 44% of all energy supply, which makes it the largest provider of energy. So we're choosing to add more information, non-defining, use the comma, followed by which. Then we've got a superlative, the largest provider of energy. 36% of energy output is composed of gas, which is 3 times more than that of solar power. Again, we're choosing to add that little bit more information, this time with a comparative, but the same rule applies, comma and which after the first clause. Coal and gas combined constitute 4/5 of total energy supplied, which means renewable sources of energy are nowhere near as common as non-renewable sources. Again, here we're choosing to add a bit more information, another comparative, nowhere near as common, but we've combined data together. So here you can see that we use relative clauses to cover a huge range of information. So try practicing with relative clauses when you come to your next response and see if that offers you an opportunity to provide the reader with more information without having to use separate sentences.